Before I came here, I'd seen the photos and the videos. I thought I knew what this place was. Europe's e-waste problem made visible. That's the story most people tell about Abu Ghoshi and Old Fadama. It took about 10 minutes to realize that story was wrong, or at least deeply incomplete.
Hello, my name is Kilian. I'm one of the co-founders of Refurbed, and with Refurbed with the simple idea: no product should ever become waste. You should repair it, refurbish it, give it a second life. For years, I thought with Refurbed we are part of the solution. Ghana made me ask harder questions.
I wanted to understand the full life cycle of a device. Not just the clean part, the part we manage in European warehouses. Refurbished can reduce up to 80% e-waste. But what about the other 20%? What happens at the other end? When repair isn't a business model, when it's just how life works. There are two sectors handling e-waste in Ghana. Across the country, in cities like Accra, we have the formal one: licensed facilities, proper machinery, regulated processes. And the informal one: markets like Abu Ghoshi and Old Fadama, where tens of thousands of people repair, refurbish, dismantle, and recover materials with their hands, their knowledge, and whatever tools they have. The formal sector is what a European policymaker would recognize. The informal sector is where most of the work actually happens, and where most of the cost is paid. I wanted to see both, but I started here. Because if you don't understand what's happening in the informal sector, you don't understand the problem at all.
So I normally buy on the scrapyard and refix them back.
And are people coming here to buy it from you, or you sell them here?
No, they came here and bought from me. Oh, my biggest challenge sometimes is the part.
The
my
parts?
Biggest challenge.
But where you get the parts from?
Sometimes I order some.
Okay. Like, is it then from Asia, or where they're coming from?
Yeah, from China.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes from Dubai, I do order.
Okay.
At earlier age, they show me how to read the diagram. So any electronic panel, I can read the diagram. Any line you see on it is a diagram.
Yeah.
So I can read the diagram. So if I know how the machine works, I can fix it.
You can fix it. Wow. Super
It's my
impressive.
passion.
I've been in this scrap business for the past 27 years now.
27 years already?
Yeah, that is since 1989.
How many people are here? Like 10,000?
The e-waste workers, if I'm not mistaken, we are over 10,000 people in the scrap, either directly or indirectly
here,
in the scrap. Yeah.
Before a single device reaches the scrapyard, it will have passed through many hands. Diagnosed, repaired, resold. Passed on again or sourced for its materials.
How you can imagine the informal sector is like an onion with many, many layers. So there is activities from collectors going from house to house collecting electronics. They might try and sell that to someone at the informal sector who is a scrap dealer or an aggregation point. And that person might then have some activities where they try and repair it, eventually maybe also having scraps that they dismantle. And then you have people even after that who take the scraps and try to make products out of that, and eventually coming down to the waste that also needs to leave the market again. And so layer by layer, the informal sector is a web of all these little small shops and households and little parties of informal sector workers working together on this on e-waste.
You see, initially we were having a lot of injuries in the scrap.
Yeah.
So because of that, my main focus was always in the health and safety aspects of what we were doing. And then, of course, we were here to make money. So the next one was I mean, how to be able to drive more money from what we were doing.
But then it's really that you're giving something back as well. You have 30 years of experience or 27 years of experience, and now you give something back to the new generation.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope.
Cool.
I hope.
The people here don't think of themselves as waste workers. They are traders, fixers, engineers, entrepreneurs. And they're doing at scale, without subsidies, what Europe is still writing policy papers about.
What would surprise a new visitor to the informal sector most is, I believe, the creativity of the people that are there and the level of positive impact you also see of what people can still do with material that we would consider waste in Europe.
In Europe, when a phone breaks, the most common response is to buy a new one. Here in Ghana, that supposedly broken phone holds a lot of value. But how much?
When you talk of electronic waste, it is the gadgets that we are using, like your computers, phones, laptops, any other thing that has power or electricity passing through it. And we would know that all these devices don't last forever. It has a lifespan, and when the lifespan expires, what happens to it?
The circular economy is not an idea here. It is not a branding exercise or a sustainability report. It is just how things work, because they have to. And watching it, you start to wonder, which of us has this more right?
But I have to be honest about something. A lot of the things that arrive here came from Europe, officially declared as second-hand. Some of them really get a second life, but some of them already arrive dead.
There are local laws. I know the Swedish and the rest monitor their ports. The Germans do that a lot. Even here, there's a task force that monitor what comes into Ghana. So they use other ways. If you do a great job in your country, indirectly, you make it easier for us. That might help a lot. It might. If you do a good job in stopping people from dumping in the first place.
The loophole, calling it untested goods, so export from European harbors is possible and cheap. In worst case scenarios, only very few of these devices are really functional, and the rest is e-waste that, if correctly declared, could never be exported in this way. The circularity happening here is real, because it has to be. Not because it is trendy, but because it is a necessity. And it comes at a price that these communities should not have to pay. Without proper equipment, without infrastructure, the only way to recover the metals inside a circuit board is by hand. And for cables, fire is the fastest way. But fire releases gases and pollutants, harming the people and the environment. I spoke with a man who knows exactly what the smoke does to his lungs. He told me he has no other choice. That's not a personal failing. That's a description of a system designed by omission to put the cost somewhere it wouldn't be seen.
This is not a story about irresponsible people. It's a story about what happens when wealthy countries decide that out of sight means out of responsibility. But the waste has to go somewhere. We just made sure that we wouldn't have to watch.
Still, in Ghana, another way of handling so much of the world's e-waste exists. One that is already building the infrastructure to do this properly. To protect its workers, recover material safely, and handle the volume that is only going to grow.
I think last year we collected over 10 tons, of electronic waste.
The knowledge is here, and the will is here. What's needed is scale. An honest acknowledgement that this problem did not start here.
After being at the informal sector yesterday, today we will visit the formal site. I must say that yesterday at the informal site it was much more different than I personally expected, specifically reflecting on all the documentaries I saw about Old Fadama. I was really surprised how motivated and passionate and dedicated the people were. But on the other side, it was still shocking to see how everything worked regarding safety, working conditions, the health issues. So hopefully today with the formal sector, we will get a totally new picture in regard of safety standards, how everything will work on health perspective. So I'm really interested to see what's happening today.
Not to go to waste.
The goal should be that nothing goes to waste. Yeah, that would be the wish. But I believe that here in Ghana, you're much more living a circular life than we are living in Europe, as we much more often see something as waste. And I think here you see literally which has still potential and you can do something with it.
Here at our facility, we do more repairs, refurbishment, reassemble, and the last stage, recycling of electronic and ICT gadgets.
And do you have a specific focus on some products, or you do literally everything?
Actually, the focus is more on smartphones, on consumer electronics, laptops, and televisions.
Great. And we're now in the formal sector, but of course we also saw the informal sector. Can you maybe explain a bit what is the difference between the informal sector and the formal sector?
The formal sector, of course, you have to play by the rules, right? But doing so is also gives you more opportunity, gives you more contact, more network. The informal guys, of course, they do things in their way, but then I do understand them because where they're coming from, probably there's not too much opportunities or too much chances for them to come out as a formula recycler. So it's a two different world, but I think we are trying to do almost the same.
Okay, good. And is it like totally separated? So is the informal sector totally separate from what you were doing, or are there all crossovers where you kind of work together in some specific ways?
Yes, we have many crossovers by accepting materials from them, collecting materials. As you know, collection in Ghana function actually more better than Europe. But then before we accept material from informal guys, we need to verify where's he getting it from, who gave it to him. So we collect their data, their information, to make sure that we don't buy any wrong stuff.
What I'll say the perfect situation would be is if scrap dealers themselves, have transitioned to where the off-takers are. Because our dream is to also set up a refinery.
My wish is that we should keep our informal scrap dealers in the place, making sure they operate. We should just make sure that we put the right framework so that they can do it and do it in a proper way. They are being useful to the environment in so many ways, where instead of things that will be a rubbish in your rooms, in the environment, they make good use of it, take it out, making sure that it goes to the facility that needs it, and they can reuse it. So we don't need to stop their operations. We just have to help them, guide them, and show them the way to do it in a proper way. That is my first wish. Second wish is that we should all live in harmony. We shouldn't pollute the environment. The environment is our only place. If we pollute it, we don't have any other place to go to.
The information that is out there in Europe, the conception that Europeans are dumping their waste here in Ghana. I would say in the recycling that there's no waste or resources. So I want the West to understand that it is possible for us to do it. Of course, in some cases we are behind the technology, but we don't want to be seen as a devil in this area. Second area is more capacity building for my staff here, also to make gadget affordable. Affordable for the locals. I think knowledge nowadays, it shouldn't be something that is not possible for people. Digital knowledge, I think,
The biggest misconception that Europeans have about Ghana is that it's a dumping ground for electronics. And this is absolutely not the fact. As a matter of fact, it's a place where tens of thousands of people make their livelihoods off of material that arrives here, and a significant, if not majority, of goods that arrive here are repaired. And that means that when often reports in the past have jumped to the conclusion on seeing burning of cables or burning of other types of materials in electronics, that is the picture that sticks in the minds of someone sitting at home in Europe. And it's easy to skip over all the steps that happen in between, and showing that whole picture with we don't have to lie, there's burning at the end, in some cases still happening, and that needs to be avoided as much as possible. But showing the whole picture that happens before it might also create awareness and more sensitivity of a European consumer sitting at home for what is actually happening and how many people rely on electronics out of Europe and Asia.
No one was asking for charity. They were asking for a fair system. One where the countries generating the waste take real responsibility for it. By raising awareness, creating safer working conditions for the people, and more sustainable solutions for the environment. That seems entirely reasonable. Supporting what's being built here isn't aid, it's accountability. Europe created the volume of waste that makes this problem impossible to solve without outside support. Recognizing that isn't generosity, it's just honesty. I came here proud of the business we've built in Europe. It was always driven by our ambition to change how we consume. But now I understand it differently. Refurbishing devices and extending their lives, that matters, it does. But it's not enough on its own. Circularity isn't a product category, it's a mindset. And Ghana has been living it, out of necessity, without recognition, for much longer than Europe has been putting it in mission statements.
What I take home is this: the life cycle of a device does not end when it's discarded by European consumers. It ends here. And right now, the people here are carrying a cost they didn't create. What if devices were actually built to last, to be repaired, to be upgraded, to be reused multiple times? Circularity is not only recycling. It is design, it is policy, it is business model transformation. So what do we actually need to change? Long-lasting products, devices designed to be repaired, not just by professionals, but by everyone with the right tools and a bit of knowledge. And manufacturers who take responsibility for what happens at the end of a product's life. Ghana didn't wait for permission to be circular. So my question to all of us: why are we still waiting?